Yes, Protogens, I'm doing a ref.
Lock the door.
Hello, 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 hello. Actually. Hello? Yeah, I had the voice mod on. Lol.
In the house. Lock the door.
I can only have TikTok translate that for me. Yeah, I know, I can see that, but I can only, what you call it, have TikTok translate for me. I really can't know what your name is.
Over the edge, feel like I'm floating through the air. The pain I felt is paid for, all is said and done. Oh, I am restricted, fixed upon the web. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless. Burning the bridge that keeps us. I'm here and I'm feeling fearless. Exaggerated, that's what you assume. The story's over now, I must conclude. I am conflicted, watching where I step still, hanging in the balance. Not the life I want to live, I want to take it all. Standing tall, fear outweighed the person you are. Oh, break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent,
Is he drawing? Yes, I am drawing.
I just wish he knew. I just wish he knew.
Thank you for all the follows, by the way. How does one get commission? You just DM me on Twitter, Blue Sky, or Affinity. Like it should be right there in my Twitch bio, right there, a little link tree. You should find my info there. And I use PayPal, so that's the only form of payment that I accept at the moment. Seeing how PayPal's going under, I'm gonna have to find some other type of place to for payment for other people. Ugh.
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.
Hello, king sized lion.
About humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity.
Can I draw you? Sorry, no, I'm busy doing some other things.
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.
Hello, Niall. Oi, where's my music? Ah. Hello, Strawberry.
Taking me so damn long, it's fading from belief. I need to slow this down, it's burning from beneath. Come break this line, this lost in my eyes. Holding on for what it's worth my life. I'm not inside, I'll make it up the vibe. Tonight it comes to life.
Hello, Nicktoons. You're watching Queso. What was he doing this time? Do I play horror games too? Sometimes. I usually play them when it's, October. Also, you mean you can play horror games when it's Halloween? I can play horror games at any day. I just like to do it on Halloween.
Baby, this is do or die. Feel it in my veins tonight. Emotional suicide. You know it's an eye for eye. I didn't wanna walk the plank. No, but the Mariona, it came like the thunder. I was on my way to going under. Swimming in the pain, yeah, I was covered in a tidal wave, But I'm a fighter. Try to take me down, I'm going.
Hello, Chabeli.
You've been playing with some fire. You've been playing with fire. One day you will see what you made of me. Find my inner peace. You are to in the dead of night. Maybe when it's still dark, you know it's an eye for eye. Feel the energy align in the dead of night. You can save your alibi. I already know you lied. Oh no, no, don't even try. Watch the flame in me ignite. You didn't wanna walk the plank. But the Mariona.
Forces Heroes final episodes releasing on Tuesday, by the way, before New Year's Eve. Noise. Yo, I have an idea of your Giants characters. Shoot, Shabeli, shoot. Oh, shit. Ah! Don't type anything yet. Let's see. Yeah, I accidentally closed TikTok chat. Alright, shoot. Now write it down. Let's see if TikTok doesn't censor it. Hello, Nitro Dragon. Nah, it's fine, Shabeli. Quick. Oh yeah, Shabeli. What's the idea that you want to share? It's a character from an anime. You know how little that narrows it down?
Setting this at maximum power.
That's so true.
Laser and charged particle beam weapons.
Thank you, Rufus.
Weapons activated.
Hokushibo. Who is this?
Engage.
Yeah, I'll take his final form, but my god, he looks hella complicated. Also, spoilers! I haven't got caught up yet. I haven't even started season 2. Yes, I'm that far behind. That's fine. Like, I'll probably forget about it anyways, but yeah, what you call it? I am far behind in that anime. Let's see. You know what, I just realized I haven't saved in a while. The dingo dial. Thank you for the likes.
Close your eyes.
literally forgot one thing. You literally cannot see it.
Close your eyes.
The Yunny Raptor. Nom, 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 nom. Wait, is this merch? No, it's not. Okay.
tryna make you my chick. Hey, yo, excuse me, please don't confuse me. Liquid in my cup, I keep it juicy, juicy.
I used to be like that way back then. I was way back then. I had bricks back then. I'm on the hip in case the ops pull up. My homie Tabby always had the hook up. You
Me what you want, don't ever call me a side chick. Know what I want, girl, I'm tryna make you my chick. Hey, yo, excuse me, please don't confuse me. Liquid in my cup, I keep it juicy, juicy.
I used to be like that way back then. I was way back then. I had bricks back then. I'm on the hip in case the ops pull up. My homie Tabby always had the
Oh, don't think you ever really knew me. I run quite a distance, so in some ways I'm truly different. In some ways I get my soul. Don't think you ever really knew me. I run quite a distance, so in some ways I'm truly different. In some ways I get my soul. You ever really knew me? You ever really knew me? No, don't think you ever really knew me. I have run quite a distance, so in some ways I'm truly different. In some way I kept my soul. I ain't got time if you want me to freeze up. I'm new now, I found the flow. I'ma need you to keep up, not slowing down anymore.
What you want, don't ever call me a side chick. You know what I want, girl, I'm tryna make you my chick. Hey, yo, excuse me, please don't confuse me. Liquid in my cup, I keep it juicy, juicy.
I used to be like that way back then. I was way back then. I had bricks back then. I'm on the hip in case the ops pull up. My homie Tabby always had the hook up. You
Me what you want, don't ever call me a side chick. Know what I want, girl, I'm tryna make you my chick. Hey, yo, excuse me, please don't confuse me. Liquid in my cup, I keep it juicy, juicy.
I used to be like that way back then. I was way back then. I had bricks back then. I'm on the hip in case the ops pull up. My homie Tabby always had the hook up.
I've been looking, finding all what is inside. I'm taking in all the lights. Oh, I'm not used to this. I'm not looking back, I'm not clear. And if you love me, you let me fly.
What you gonna do? I'll see you with it. Pop that. Go. Now let me see you go. I'll see you with it. Pop that. Now let me see you go. I'll see you with it. Pop that. Go. Now let me see you go. I'll see you with it. Pop that. Now let me see you go. 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 What you gonna do with it?
They said, don't fall. Don't forget all the things you've been taught, you've been told. Don't blink, don't run, don't turn.
Humans, what have you learned? I was programmed to beat you.
Wait, wait.
The same mistakes.
Due to inactivity, the luck. So it does not, whatchamacallit, notify me. What the actual hell? Ah. Hello again. Hello, Razor. I am just drawing a Protogen Sharky. I'm just doing a ref sheet right now. Wee 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 wee. Yes, Razor. that minimized. See, can you guys still see? Yeah, you guys can. Bonzo. I'm just call you by your YouTube name. Hello, Fizzy. Thank you, Martina. Glad you like to join. Oh, Dark Bonnie. I remember someone called Dark Bonnie, but, you know, it's been ages. Oh no, your demon baby has awoken! Wah! Oh, okay. Here, look at Protogen while I be right back. Hello, Dark Riv. Yes, very big. Here, be. Alright, it's back.
Can I be your star tonight? You fill my soul with light the day we met. I don't wanna leave your side. Have me by your side when the sun sets. Let's leave for an eternity. We'll sail across the lights beyond the sky. I'll be with you eternally. I'm an addict for your love, it keeps me high. have me by your side when the sun sets. Let's leave for an eternity. We'll sail across the lights beyond the sky. I'll be with you eternally. I'm an addict for your love, it keeps me high.
Gosta de fazer orgia, essa novinha que tá na volanda. Gosta de fazer orgia, sentando em cima da piroca, 24 horas por dia. Você decada por cima da pica. Essa novinha que tá na volanda, gosta de fazer orgia, fica sentando em cima da piroca, 24 horas por dia. Ela te decada por cima da pica.
Oh, my baby's already done. Okay. Wait. All right. What the fuck happened to you? Puppy.
What do you feel?
What are you doing, woman? I keep hearing banging behind me. Yeah. Woman, what you doing? Alright. Different playlist.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. On we'll go, finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.
Need to check something real quick.
Here we go.
What? Hello, Nicholas. What am I drawing? I am drawing a Protogen. A Sharky Protogen. What year are we now? We're still in 2025. Is the song copyright free as much as I miss those videos and their intro? Yeah, I am playing a playlist of copyright free music. I hope we never die. Let me see. No, it's called Rario Mortals featuring Lara Brame by Future Traps and NCS copyright free music. That's literally the music that's playing right now. Just sniffs Norse. Will do. Will be healthy. Am I the only viewer? Probably, if it says only one viewer.
I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love.
Oh god, this is gonna be annoying just trying to get this curve right. Okay.
You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
Hello, Kotek. I think I said your name right there.
You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
Oh no, baby, no! Whoa! Yeah, I know what you mean, leadership. Alright, lady. Ugh. Yamoy, you. Alright, I guess you don't want loves. Okay. Okay, I see how it is. Okay.
Over the edge, feel like I'm floating through the air. The pain I felt is paid for, all is said and done. Oh, I am restricted, fixed above the wall. I need to kick the habit that my mind is breathing in. Break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. what you assume. The story's over now, I must conclude. I am
Wow, it does
conflicted,
not even
watching
alert
what I
me. Look
sense
at
to
that. What the hell?
hanging in the balance, not the life I want to live. I want to take it all, standing tall. Fear I weighed the person you are. Oh, break out, I've got to see. Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it.
I lost my pen. Never mind, found it.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby,
You remind me of an Usher in some ways. I hope it's a good streamer.
in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, for you, for you, for you, for you, for you.
I like muscular monster men, to be precise. Woman, pick a lane. I literally see you going back and forth. Whoa, you want to come up already? No, wait. Let's go. Whoa!
Yeah.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one. Only one.
Shit. I thought you would have a month of Sailor, but but it seems I am incorrect, or am I? I don't know what you mean by that.
Superhero. Can I be your superhero? Superhero. 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 Can I be your superhero?
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Crossfire all the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.
Mouth of sailor versus someone who uses burglar language. Often the idiom becomes from notion of sailors often use such burglar language. Alright. Wow. Alright, well, pretty much I am done with the line art. Now I just pretty much gotta send it to the dude and wait for him to approve it. In the meantime, gamey time for a bit. Actually, is it still it should be inserted anyways. Wait. Wires tangled. How's everyone's day doing, by the way? By the way, the art stream, or I'm done doing art, so I'm going to be doing video games.
To our monster museum. After following the world's fastest geriatric man, we come upon the train that we're going to be spending most of the game in, which I'm going to name Timothy for clarity. Now, I could go into Tim the Tank Engine's design, but I want to lay down the structure of this video before things go off the rails, and yes, I intended that pun because I'm not a fucking coward. Puns are funny, eat shit. Part 1 of this video is going to cover most of the horror and gameplay, while Part 2 will cover the reason most of you probably clicked on this video, which will take the form of a personal tour around the island to look at all the various locations that can give us some insight as to how the island's rail system works. So if you're only interested in that, you can skip to this part of the video or click the chapter marker in the description. But back to the game itself, there's really only 3 things to talk about: the plot, the combat, and Charles himself. And speaking of plot, Eugene dies immediately. Well, okay, not immediately, but he is definitely in the process of dying due to his terminal stanky leg, and he tells us that in order to get the plot moving, we need to find 3 eggs that the island owner, Senor Banana Pants, has locked away in 3 different mines. And that's really it. Everything else we learn through various notes left around the map, and it's nothing we haven't seen before in like a bajillion other horror stories. Some stand in for the individualism-crushing nature of late-stage capitalism, digs too deep and finds a monster, tries to keep it hush-hush while also looking to see if they can somehow make a profit off of this ancient demon. You know, it's kind of funny how what was once seen as over-the-top evil in Alien has kind of just become, yeah. Hell, that attitude even extends to the townfolk. Talking to most of them, they just seem mildly annoyed that a giant spider demon is running around their island, acting like he's little more than an aggressive coyote that keeps causing fairy tale levels of mischief. I'm sorry, but this guy is eating literally everything living that it can find, and the most distressed person on this island is the pickle lady. Even the cultists seem pretty chill about everything. They're just hanging around, whistling to themselves and spouting generic Skyrim one-liners when they spot you.
Get him!
Even then, they're not doing this out of fanatical devotion. They're literally being paid by the corrupt town boss Warren to cosplay as cultists in the hopes that it'll appease Charles. This is by far the most nonchalant horror setting I've ever been in. and I kind of love it. I would love a passive mode for this game, where I could just sort of putter around, explore the island, and take in the gloomy atmosphere. But moving away from my desire to vacation in Silent Hill, it's pretty clear that the story is more of an afterthought, though there's nothing wrong with a simple story in a horror game. In the end, this is a very small game with a very simple concept. Killing Thomas the Tank Engine. Even if technically Charles is closer to James in design, I'm just saying. Speaking of, this is probably a good time as any to talk about the titular train's design, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. In the past, I've stated that mascot horror is best when it's subtle, and Charles's design can best be described as somebody skinned a clown and plastered its face over a freight train. And I don't know about you, but last I checked, neither clowns nor freight trains are known for their subtlety. Yeah, put that on a shirt and sell it. Charles has the same problem as Señorita Delicia, where her initial reveal is shocking, but the more you see it, the more you get used to it, making him less scary every time he shoves his face in the camera. But to be fair, he's a giant spider train parody of Thomas the Tank Engine, so something tells me subtlety isn't exactly a priority for this game. Now, if this game were different, say taking place in an abandoned train depot while we tried to suss out Charles from the real trains as he stalked us, then I'd have more of a problem with it. But that's not what this game is about. It's about shooting Charles directly in the face over and over with the heaviest ordnance we can find. So again, I reiterate, subtlety is not this game's priority. Acquiring that heavy ordnance, meanwhile, is largely the main focus of the game while we go on our egg hunt. Aranirum Island is littered with various stops along the way, usually consisting of short missions to collect more scrap to upgrade our train's speed, offense, or defense, or to collect additional weapons. The majority of these optional missions consist of go here to get a thing and bring it back to me, or 90% of all Alliance quests in World of Warcraft. The reason these quests usually consist of walk here and get a thing is because Alliance players are terrible, but the reason the quests are like this in Choo Choo Charles is because of Charles himself. He's absolutely a threat to your train, but he's an even bigger threat to you and your desire to not die. With the exception of a few areas, like this Slender in the 8 Pages tribute that I'm not going to bother talking about because it's legit just Slender in the 8 Pages, there's not much to say, Charles is always skulking around somewhere on the island, so the feeling of vulnerability when you're out in the open is fantastic. You can often hear his whistle in the distance, but the mountains and tree cover make it difficult to judge just how close he is, and the image of his silhouette moving through the forest is terrifying as you creep around so very far away from the safety of your metal box. Is what I would be saying if he ever actually bothered to show up while I was on foot. Yeah, it happened again. Not once when I was out doing these side missions did Charles ever actually appear to chase me, which is really frustrating because the whole dynamic of leaving the safety of your train and scurrying back when you hear him coming is kind of half the appeal of this game. Not to mention one of my favorite horror mechanics in general. I mean, for Faz's sake, that's 90% of the reason I call the daycare in FNAF Security Breach one of the only two scary parts of the game. Or at least when Moon's AI is actually functional and not just tripping balls. As I said before, the whole dynamic of being forced to leave a safe spot to run around a big open area filled with danger is legit one of my favorite interactions in a horror game, just because of how primal it is. You're constantly looking over your shoulder, senses at full alert for any flicker of danger. But instead of any of that delicious horror, Charles never once showed up and I was left with my concerning horror fixation entirely untickled. Kind of frustrating that I keep getting horror cucked like this, first with Bendy in part 3 and 5, and now with Charles, though maybe it's my fault for coming on too strong. So, for sake of argument, let's say Charles did chase me around on foot a few times. Would this have added to the horror?
Yes.
But would it have changed my opinion of the game?
No.
I have a frankly disturbing love for threats that can come at me from anywhere at any time, and Charles is a fantastic example of that. For example, the way his whistle echoes in the distance is brilliant, because unlike a signal that guarantees the monster is about to chase you, like in that one really bad Silent Hill game, Charles's whistle is not a guarantee he'll show up. It's just a warning to let the player know that he's nearby, which is brilliant to add to the uncertainty and fear of the situation. Problem is, a single scary mechanic does not a horror game make. The only other two sources of threat on the island are the random cultists, which I'll talk about later, and the fights with Charles. Those fights are tense, sure, but tension and horror are not quite the same thing. Related, absolutely, but tension doesn't always beget horror, as horror is incredibly complex and context sensitive. For example, while I'm going for a lap 2 in Pizza Tower, that's also tense, but it's not what I'd call scary. To keep with the pizza topic, because I really want pizza now, Fellini's for life, tension is like a good dough with which to start, but without the ingredients coordinated in the right way, you're just gonna end up with a disgusting mess. And this is where a lesser man would make a pineapple on pizza joke, but damn it, pineapple on pizza is good. There are any number of ingredients you can add to the dough of tension to make a good horror pizza. The unknown, helplessness, high stakes, story context, game mechanics, monster design, the list is is gigantic, and this is one reason I find horror so fascinating. There is no essence of horror. There is no one thing that will guarantee a situation is scary because human fear is incredibly complex. In the context of Charles chases, like I said before, they're tense, but are really only on the border of being scary. They follow a very set pattern of what's going to happen. So while the first couple of times you fight him might be scary, you very quickly learn the exact formula of these fights, which takes away a lot of the fear. And in addition, the threat of Charles drastically diminishes once you get the rocket launcher. I have yet to find a game that stays scary once it hands you a rocket launcher. Speaking of, while I've talked about it before, I want to at least touch on the idea of fighting back in horror games because it's actually a pretty nuanced topic. Fighting back is a huge part of Ding Ding Dave, but it's rather unique in that fighting back takes the form of an infinite ammo rail shooter. Now on paper, this seems awful for horror. I know I've accused games of this in the past, but this fight is literally on rails, and to top it off, you have a gun with infinite ammo. But there's a catch to it. Each of these fights has potential long-term consequences. Even once your train gets powered up and the risk of death is far less, Charge and Chuck is always going to manage to strip at least a little bit of your health, which costs you scrap to repair. Run out of scrap, and it's only a matter of time before Charles wears you down and eventually kills you, which I just realized I'm going to have to find outside footage for because I never actually died in this game. And the fact that these fights are literally on rails is also fine because it's only on rails in the literal sense. This isn't a scripted chase where every last event is pre-planned by the game. Each fight is dynamic, with Charles responding both to the terrain and your own shots. You need to act and react to Charles when he chases you down. Switch guns, repair your train, all in an effort to not die. The final source of tension and gameplay comes from the Charles cultists around the island who protect the eggs and other miscellaneous areas. They're fine. Aside from wearing impressively manufactured masks, like legit where are they getting the supplies for these, they just kind of wander around in set patterns or chase you down with shotguns apparently filled with glitter and piss for all the damage it does to you. They're pretty easy to avoid in general and also lack basic threat awareness because I don't know about you, but my response to the guy who just jumped into a heavily armored train isn't stand still and wait to be shot in the face by a bazooka. The final fight with Charles too is just fine. Assembling all the eggs causes him to go beast mode, and unlike Bendy who did this for no reason, this is explicitly what we were trying to do. Money match him in a 1v1 Fox-only Final Destination deathmatch. It's loud and fun and pretty damn satisfying to actually do some real damage to the bastard after he's been hounding you all game. And the ending is honestly a really cool death scene that I have to censor because of YouTube. And that's really it. Overall, the game is fine. It's a little scary at times, but it was always meant to be a simple game that doesn't really leave much to be overanalyzed like I tend to do, which is why I had to find a different thing to overanalyze because, damn it, how could I call myself a real content creator if I'm not spending an exorbitant amount of time overanalyzing something entirely trivial which the devs probably didn't even think all that much about. I will go into a bit more depth on my thoughts on the game itself at the end, but now it's time for the real meat of this video. And honestly, this whole does the railroad and Choo Choo Charles make sense idea turned out to be a lot more interesting than I thought. There are a lot of finer details that really tell a fun story of how this island operated before Tank Tony showed up. So let's get all this boring spider demon horror out of the way and talk about something that's really fun. Railroad logistics. The last thing we need to do before starting our grand island tour is to examine the train that we'll be conducting. And in brief, this thing is a fucking abomination. Now, there are plenty of nitpicks with this thing's design I could go over, and I briefly will. The train has a steam whistle, but no actual steam whistle on the outside. Why so many wheels? The most pathetic cowcatcher I've ever seen. You don't drive a train with 3 sticks! Why so many wheels? Why do the so many wheels not have a connecting rod? How are the so many wheels being powered? Why so many wheels? Nitpicks aside, the most striking feature of TIM and steam engines in general is this cylindrical bit on the front, known as the boiler. This is where, and I need you to follow me here, the steam engine boils water to create steam to power the engine. Hence the name, steam engine. Problem is, this train is absolutely not a steam engine, and the reason is the fuel. In terms of fuel efficiency, steam engines are incredibly inefficient. Only about 5% of the energy burned in a coal steam engine is turned into actual power. Engineers were constantly pouring literal tons of coal into these engines just to get from one stop to another. As opposed to the 5% energy conversion of a coal steam train, your car's engine turns about 25% of the energy from gasoline into motion. Also, also consider that gasoline is almost twice as energy dense as coal, and we can make the scientific conclusion that steam trains need a shit ton of coal to work. This is why so many trains had tenders, extra wagons attached to the back that could carry both coal and water, as they needed these tenders to actually get from point to point. Now, in fairness, Tim here is a much smaller engine covering a much smaller area, so it wouldn't need as much overall fuel. Plus, there were absolutely steam trains that didn't use tender cars. However, they still carried large amounts of additional fuel. They just stored it on the engine in various compartments, typically in large boxes on the side of the boiler or behind the engineers in an extension of the cab itself. Also, fun fact, these fuel-carrying engines are the type of trains that we call tank engines, as in Thomas the. Tim here, however, absolutely does not have any apparent space for tender, but maybe it did. One thing I immediately noted while playing is how absolutely massive the cab is. Compare this cab to the ones that existed even in the massive, more modern diesel engines I toured at the Nickel Plate Railroad Museum. I have literally slept in hotel bathrooms with less space than this, and no, I am not going to explain why I have so much experience in that department. I also noted this weird hanger off at the back that I couldn't quite wrap my head around. At first, I thought it was a custom modification to support the gun, but no, now I think the train was modified in a different way, and I hate that it kinda makes sense. Something iconic about steam engines that Tim doesn't have is the plume of smoke belching from his smokestack. Now, granted, a lot of the time in modern steam trains, the amount of smoke is exaggerated by the engineers because, let's be honest, it looks really fucking cool. Tim, however, produces almost nothing because Tim is not a steam engine. Tim is a diesel. More specifically, Tim was a steam tank engine that someone Frankensteined into a diesel, which according to some train enthusiasts is the absolute scariest part of this entire game. But it fits. While rare, some smaller trains, usually switcher trains nearing the end of their lifespan, were converted from coal to diesel. This explains several of the prior anomalies about Tim. For one, his unusually large cab may have been where the onboard coal and water boxes were stored. It was fairly common for switcher trains to be tank engines, so upon Tim's conversion to diesel, the coal box could have been taken out entirely to allow for more room in the cab. Him being diesel also explains why Tim has no firebox, the spot where the engineer actually shovels the coal into the boiler. This also explains the lack of smoke coming from the smokestack, as diesel engines produce significantly less smoke than coal or wood. This even explains why Tim has no connecting rod between his wheels, because look at what the hell my friend and I found at the Nickel Plate Railroad Museum.
I got you now, you fucking moron bitch.
An honest to Thomas diesel engine about the same size as Tim. Like, holy fuck, what were the odds of that? And when looking at this diesel switcher, what do we find? Well, while it doesn't have 5 billion wheels like Tim does, this one doesn't have a connecting rod, as the wheels receive power directly from the engine. Purchasing a cheap diesel train also makes sense for the island of Aranerum itself. This is an island that requires all supplies to be shipped in via small ferries, and steam trains require a lot of heavy coal. Diesel is far more efficient ton for ton, meaning it would have been easier and likely cheaper to supply their trains with diesel than coal. Furthermore, having smaller amounts of smoke produced by their trains is incredibly important for a mining town. Coal trains passing by mines, depending on airflow, could greatly pollute the already not great air quality inside, which is yet another point in favor of Tim being a diesel train. But now we have to ask the question, why would the island buy a coal converted to diesel engine instead of just a diesel engine outright? Price. Again, most coal to diesel conversions were done on much older trains nearing the end of their lifespan. Often switcher trains in a town like this doesn't exactly scream doing all that great to me. And with our magnificent vessel puzzled out, I say it's finally time we start the grand Aranerum tour. The first stop is actually the train shed where we see Tim for the first time. And I really don't have much to say here other than it's about what you'd expect from a small train shed. So let's actually get moving, shall we? Now as we start chugging along, I want to take a look at the overall map of Aranerum. Something to note is that this map does not show every rail line in the map, just the ones that we can go on. Remember that, it's going to be really important later. In terms of a small mining operation, the rail network is a bit dense but otherwise not too unrealistic. For comparison, we can look to the real-world example of the Birmingham Mineral Railroad. While somewhat larger than the island of Aranerum, we can still see a similar pattern of various nested loops to better service the various mines. But of course, that means we have to figure out if this is actually what Choo Choo Charles did. Continuing down the line, we pass a few basic non-train related structures, but more importantly, we come upon a small informal train graveyard. We can actually find an identical version of our own train that's been left out to rust along with some abandoned minecarts. In fact, Our Tim is the only train we ever actually see running. This immediately tells me that the island has started using precision scheduled railroading. And don't worry if that joke didn't make sense, the whole 3 of my viewers who are also railroad workers are pointing at the screen and going, ah, right now. Maybe, I'm not actually sure. Legit, I could actually use some feedback on that joke there because, full disclosure, I am flying so fucking blind here. But what I find most interesting in this small graveyard is these boxcars, as this is not the kind of car I would expect to typically find in a mining operation. And yet, it ends up making a lot of sense for the island of Aranerum. Historically, the transportation of minerals or ores was done via either gondola cars or hopper cars. A gondola car is basically just an open-topped car used for transporting bulk material, while a hopper car is similar in design but has various hoppers underneath. These were vastly preferable for hauling loose items such as minerals for a number of reasons. Top-loading piles of rocks is significantly easier as you can just pour the cargo into the car with some kind of chute or hopper. By comparison, most boxcars loaded cargo via side doors, which of course would have the product just spill out everywhere if you tried to open a boxcar full of rocks. However, boxcars were occasionally known to haul coal, and pretty much anything really. As stated by famous railroad industrial engineer John Nealing, we have the boxcar and you can adapt to it, which really sounds like something a Melee player would say. We have Fox and you can adapt to it.
You have a one-frame option off of drill! You have lasers! You have 19 recoveries!
That is the second Melee joke I've made in this guy. I don't even play Melee. And I believe that's exactly what Aranerum did. But to explain that, we need to make our first stop at one of Aranerum's many mines. Immediately, we can see that there are tracks specifically for the minecarts, since the gauge here is far too small for our train to ride on. What's interesting to me is that these tracks don't lead to any kind of storage or conveyor belt or other structure. They pull up right next to the main line and then just stop. Now, if you think you've figured out what's going on here, you probably have, because it's kind of dumb. But I want to keep talking about the island first, so keep that juicy, turgid theory of yours tucked tight inside your brain britches.
Stop that. No.
Moving on, we eventually arrive, after a brief demon attack, at a small station with a junction, technically making this a junction station. We can also see a type of siding here. Sidings are secondary rails used for any number of functions, but this one here is most likely a passing siding, specifically in a main and loop setup. This can exist for a number of reasons, but largely, it's made to allow other trains to bypass the station if there is another train already stopped there. We can actually see a different type of siding loop in the train shed at the beginning of the game, one with 2 sidings and a through road. But coming back to the junction station, you'll notice that this station also has 2 sidings and a through road to accompany its other siding on the outside. This is a tad unusual, but it would make sense if this station was also a loading dock. The main and loop setup would allow this station to load multiple boxcars while not blocking the overall rail system, while the sidings and through road would allow this one station to store quite a bit of rolling stock. Lending to the theory that this is a loading station is what we find if we follow these tracks here, and since we can't take Tim here, we're gonna have to go on foot. Following the tracks, we can see that this was a route up through nothing. It just kinda ends. But this isn't really all that unrealistic either. Directly above where this track runs out is a wooden footbridge that apparently goes nowhere. Now, people don't typically build bridges for no reason, so this had to have gone somewhere. And my theory is that this entire branch of the rail network once led to a mine shaft that has since dried out. We can even see this defunct boxcar halfway up, along with this random goober guarding apparently nothing. What's his story, do you think? Why was he given empty quarry guarding duty? Is he happy with how much he's getting paid? Is being a shotgun-wielding cultist technically count as employment? Well, to answer that question, we need to ask someone from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Too bad I don't know anyone from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. One last feature of this junction station that I want to talk about is this water tank here. Water stops were locations where steam trains would replenish their stores of water necessary for operation. However, I don't think this is actually a water stop. Water towers were almost always used in water stops, but we never see a single water tower in Aranerum. What we do see, however, is plenty of these water tanks collecting rainwater around various houses. Thus, I don't believe that this water tank is actually for supplying steam engines. Rather, this is probably just drinking water. Remember, this station is also a loading dock and would have any number of burly, sweaty men carrying heavy loads through this station. They gon' get thirsty. Pulling out, we have a bit of a loop back around to get back on track, so while we're just chugging along, I want to talk a bit more about the overall rail layout on the island. Aranerum's rail line is what is known as a single-track railway. A single-track railway is just a railway that only uses one track. This is opposed to a double-track railway, which, and you're never gonna believe this one, uses 2 railways. I would absolutely expect this small island to use a single-track railway, as these are far cheaper to build and maintain, but do require some additional logistics to prevent, you know, death. There is one exception to this layout, however, and that's this area here that has rails so close together it might as well be a double track. I won't get into that just yet, as this has more to do with the operations of the island, but I wanted to point it out because it had me very intrigued when I first noticed it. Back to single track railways, they can have trains running in opposite directions, but obviously this is going to require significant coordination to avoid something really cool from happening. However, I don't think the Araneum Railway actually made use of trains running in opposite directions, specifically because of how their junctions are set up. Looking at the map, we only see rail switches facing a single direction of travel, specifically counterclockwise around the map. Rail switches are the actual, well, switches that allow a train to move to one track or the other. At no point did I ever see these switches running for these junctions here, which means that if there were a train running clockwise, they wouldn't be able to control which track they're headed down. Further confirming this idea is the complete lack of any signaling on the island. Signaling is, at least in the context of collision avoidance, a way to tell the engineer if the track ahead is clear or not. There are a good number of ways to do this, and we see absolutely none of them here. The only fixed signals we see are on the switches, and these only indicate which way the switch is directing the train. And even then, these switches are so primitive that they require the engineer to stop the train, get out, and manually change the switch themselves. These types of manual railroad switches did exist, but even in the early 1900s were almost always used for extremely low-trafficked railways. However, this lack of signaling is not without precedent. There exists one very early and, perhaps more importantly, cheap method of railroad signaling. So cheap that it's not technically signaling at all. Timetable operation. This is a type of railroad operation that prevents collisions by having fixed timetables. This means that engines are only on certain lines at certain times. For example, if I were working on timetable A, my train would be scheduled to be on this line at this time, and the engineers working on timetable B would be aware of this and thus know not to go on my line. Now, if you've ever worked on any kind of group project ever, you already know all the reasons this kind of operation just straight up sucks. But to spell it out, in a group project, missing your deadline will make you feel like you're about to die. On a railroad, missing your deadline will guarantee it. In short, this timetable system combined with the manual railroad switches is extremely uncommon and frankly stupidly dangerous, and also makes perfect sense for the island of Araneum. But we need to save that for the conclusion, as we've reached our next stop, an explosives observation bunker. Why does the island have this? Because the rocket launcher we get was handmade by one of the island's employees. And what does that tell us? That mine boss Warren doesn't just ignore OSHA regulations, he creates new ones. I have absolutely zero doubt that Warren was paying this guy under the table to make cheap, improvised explosives, and now I immediately understand why this island has such a large cache of guns. Gotta keep the Union reps away somehow. I mean, really, if you remove the whole demon train, this entire operation would be the wet dream of Jim Venna. Yeah, go ahead and lie in the comments, say you got that joke. But moving on to one of our last stops, we get to this structure which I'm pretty sure isn't actually part of the railroad's infrastructure. Aside from this building, which is just a Motel 6, we have two towers here overlooking the rails. If this were positioned in a more complex junction, I'd probably say that it's an interlocking tower, but that's obviously not the case for several reasons. Interlocking towers, sometimes called switch houses, are a centralized location that's able to remotely flip the railroad switches of a nearby junction or junctions. However, there's only one junction nearby, and as previously established, Araneum has no apparent signaling or switch control, and just uses a timetable setup for its trains. And also, I couldn't find any actual switching machinery inside. I feel like I should have probably just started with that one. In the end, I think it's just employee lodging. It's a weird place for it, and I'm not sure why it's built so tall, but with these two common rooms in this storage shed, it's really the only thing I can think of. And after that, the only stop left we have are these final two mines, at least in terms of any real railroad infrastructure. There's not much new here for us, and we can once again see that there's no real loading facilities for moving the mine product into the boxcars. Once again, the mines here seem to rely heavily on really stupid uses of manual labor, and honestly, that can be used to sum up the Araneum Railroad perfectly. Really stupid uses of manual labor. But unfortunately, it all makes perfect sense. Now, it shouldn't, and I am just slightly extremely frustrated that this railroad actually kind of works, and I will eat my entire house if the if the developer actually planned out anything that I said or am going to say. But here we go anyway, an overview of Araneum's railroad and why it actually works. Buckle up, it's gonna be a ride. First, we need to start by judging whether or not the overall layout of the railroad makes sense. Araneum's mining operation is rather small and lacks any kind of industrial equipment outside of the rail network, meaning that all of the extraction of ore is done via pickaxes, shovels, and good old muscle. This is an extremely slow process, and as such, these trains probably aren't running all that often. That does make the timetables far more easy to manage and makes the manual switches far more feasible. A good number of houses or other facilities aren't located too far from many of these switches, so employees stationed or living there could follow the timetable and turn the switches between the relatively infrequent trains. However, this low frequency of trains fails to explain this section of double track that I mentioned earlier in the video for audience retention purposes. This area specifically being double tracked tells me that this line here is so heavily trafficked that it required a line going both north and south at the same time. Well, what do we find both here and here? Another mine and the demonic temple to Charles. Did you forget this game was about a demon? When these two caves were first being excavated, this would have output a lot of both ore and useless waste rock. And again, the lack of proper mining equipment would have made loading these trains a very slow process. So this double track was likely added to allow a train to be stopped on one of these double tracks while still allowing traffic to flow. Finally, the lack of infrastructure such as interlocking towers and fixed signals makes sense given the business practices of the worst dressed man in the world here. Frankly put, bro is so comically inept and obsessed with cost cutting that I feel like he could have been a villain in Outer Worlds. Shoutouts to my Outer Worlds fans, by the way. I'm sure all 6 of us are gonna have a great time with the sequel, but this focus on cost cutting seems to clash with just how extensive the actual railroad is. Remember, this map only shows the lines that we can go on. There are plenty of branch lines around the island, not to mention all the track for minecarts. What I expect happened is, given Warren's Saturday morning cartoon levels of incompetence, the actual rail was laid down first, went way over budget, and thus Warren decided to install basically no supportive infrastructure to then cut costs. And since I refuse to believe he was in the business of hiring union workers, I mean, I severely doubt that running around with cult masks and shotguns is within the union's scope of work, he could very easily give a disturbingly stiff middle finger to any safety regulations. Though this makes sense once you realize that the Charles Mining Company was bought out by Norfolk Southern. Oh shit, I just realized this entire game is a metaphor for the Union Pacific merger.
What are you fucking talking about?
So, considering everything we've covered, the extensive rail network, the lack of infrastructure, the low number of engines, the slow pace of work, and the obsessive cost cutting of Warren, does the rail network in Aranirum make sense? Yes! But we're not quite done yet. We still need to explain the actual method of shipping all these mining products around and off the island. And trust me, the explanation is once again really stupid and not surprising in the least. First off, remember that boxcars typically weren't used to carry mining products. That was left to hopper cars. But boxcars absolutely could be used to save on initial costs as they require less infrastructure to support. And we already established how Aranirum has about as much infrastructure as the middle of the Sahara Desert. Typically, when boxcars were used to ship mining products like coal, boards were installed at the bottom of the doorways to prevent all the coal or whatever they were shipping from spilling out. However, none of the boxcars on the island have this modification. This means the mined gold would have to be stored in separate containers on the boxcars to prevent spillage. Next, 2 of the island's docks contain rails specifically gauged for mine carts, and these rails go all the way to the end of the pier. This means that the mine carts full of product were likely moved directly onto whatever ferries or barges would travel to the island. However, this means that the mine carts would actually have to get to these rails. But why would the island set things up like this? Because the island wasn't using their boxcars to haul gold, they were using them to haul mine carts filled with gold. I need to take just a moment to go over how monumentally stupid this is. First of all, I can't find any record of mining product being hauled in this way. Typically, minecarts would haul their product to some kind of hopper placed above the railway so it could just pour into the open hopper cars. Even in the case of boxcars hauling minerals, some kind of setup was used to allow the minerals to be easily funneled into the boxcars because gravity is free to use, or at least until Nintendo patents that too. Hauling minecarts onto boxcars, meanwhile, is dumb for so many reasons. For one, minecarts are really fucking heavy. This listing I found for a minecart that more or less matches the ones we see on the island weighs it at 820 pounds while empty. Now, in the mines themselves, we do have evidence that mine trains were used due to this note here. These are trains that were specifically used in mines to haul heavy minecarts. However, I don't think I need to state that you wouldn't be able to use a mine train to haul minecarts directly onto a boxcar. In fact, looking at how the mine rails are set up, the miners are literally having to derail the minecarts, push them by hand on loose soil, up a ramp, and into the boxcar. Never mind that you still have to find a way to secure the minecarts while inside the boxcar, but this only gets us halfway there. We still need to haul the minecarts to the docks, which involves moving them down the boxcar ramps through the dirt and back onto the rails. What the fuck? This, however, is completely in line with the very typical work harder not smarter mantra that the Charles Mining Company is so obsessed with that it makes Aperture Science look reasonable by comparison.
Those of you who volunteered to be injected with praying mantis DNA, bad news is we're postponing those tests indefinitely. Good news is we've got a much better test for you, fighting an army of mantis men.
So, does the freight and hauling of Aranirum make sense?
Yes!
Does Tim the Tank Engine turn diesel make sense?
Yes!
Is the game scary?
No.
To shift gears away from the answer that yes, the Aranerum Railroad makes sense, which is probably the scariest part of the game, Choo Choo Charles does have its tense moments, though again, I wish he had actually come to kill me instead of just being a giant spider-shaped tease, but despite my raging horror fetish being left at half-mast,
get some help.
The vibe of just riding around in the night, soft ambient noises, and the vague threat of a distorted train whistle in the distance is so weirdly satisfying. The NPCs, while not animated well, or at all really, have a ton of personality and got a lot of laughs out of me. The core loop of running around, finding scrap, and upgrading your train is incredibly satisfying, especially as you start to see actual results and the idea of killing Charles becomes more and more of a reality. And on that note, the combat is fun. Simple, sure, but the impromptu nature of the combat adds a fun level of tension that makes the actual fights feel like an amazing payoff. Really, my biggest issue with the game is the $20 price tag, but if you can catch it on sale and you like trains or have some pent-up aggression against Thomas the Tank Engine for some reason, then yeah, pick it up. It's a simple and very short game, but that's honestly kind of refreshing. And for the whole railroad review part, to my regular viewers, if you liked this kind of offbeat analysis thing and want me to do more, like analyzing, I don't know, how much does it cost to get a VIP pass for Roxy's room, please let me know, either in the comments or just by liking this video. And for the railroaders watching, if you found something about my railroad analysis that you thought was inaccurate, also please let me know. Again, I'm no expert, and I would love to hear your opinions on this incredibly stupid railroad, but that's part of the fun of it, really. I have no doubt that this railroad would never exist in any modern setting except for this island. If I were analyzing the trains in, say, GTA 5, which no, I'm not going to do, I'm more of a Saints Row guy,
Pretty little thing.
I'd have held the rail network to far higher standards of infrastructure and overall quality. But on this tiny island run by the reincarnation of Cornelius Vanderbilt, that's the last train joke, I swear, I can absolutely see this jumbled mess happening, because context is important. And on the concept of context, that's actually going to be a major part of my next video, when I finally play Bendy and the Dark Revival. Now, normally when I play horror games, I try not to